Yeah, this is another amazing journey, another really powerful story in the life of Christ. And of course, we have these other attributes that we're working with from our dear Rudolf Steiner. The weekday exercises given to us by the Buddha, the noble eightfold path to enlightenment. Is anyone feeling enlightened? Not quite yet. We're working on it still. Okay, that's good. It's all about the striving, right? That's what Faust says. And also the rhythms of the foundation stone meditation. So we have our dear, my colleague, Marianne Fieber, who works with me in the Central Regional Council. And she will give us that rhythm to start us off. Thanks, Marianne.
Light divine, Christ Son, this is heard by the spirits of the elements in east, west, north, south. May human beings hear it.
Thank you. Yes, the elemental beings are awakening here, and they are trying to wake us up. So may we hear it. Beautiful. Thank you. And we have a wonderful guest coming from all the way on the West Coast, our dear Christine Burke, who was here in Chicago when we did our How We Will gathering with the elderberries. And so she has decided to take on Holy Monday for us. And so welcome, friends. And I introduce you now to Christine Burke.
Welcome. Yes. So as I thought about Holy Monday, I thought, okay, so we're connecting with this eightfold path. Let's go ahead and read that first. Monday. Talking. Only what has sense and meaning should come from the lips of one striving for higher development. All talking for the sake of talking to kill time is in this sense harmful. The usual kind of conversation, a disjointed medley of remarks, should be avoided. This does not mean shutting oneself off from intercourse with one's community. It is precisely then that talk should gradually be led to significance. One adopts a thoughtful attitude to every speech and answer, taking all aspects into account. Never talk without cause. Be gladly silent. One tries not to talk too much or too little. First, listen quietly, then reflect on what has been said. This exercise may be called right word. So I was asked last week to talk about this, to choose one of these days, and this seemed the appropriate day since my training in the speech arts and also the Waldorf education pedagogy that I studied sort of fit into this, and my life has kind of led me in a way to this whole idea of right word. I studied from a young age. I was just always curious about how and why people said things, and how someone could say something and it didn't really match up with what they were doing. And so as I was preparing for today, I thought about the word, and I thought about Parzival, and Parzival kept coming into my mind and this whole new type of hero, which is a hero who uses not a sword or his fists but uses the word to actually save the day. And I think about this whole right word. I started thinking about the times when I was in a place where I could give the right word to someone and not even know I was doing it, wondering like, why am I talking about this? Almost as if you're split off from yourself and wondering, why am I speaking about this particular thing to this particular person? And also thought about the times when I said the wrong thing, used the wrong word. And so I went to a few different sources, and I wanted to share a few things. One is from Creative Speech, which is a selection of lectures and exercises from both Rudolf Steiner and Marie Steiner von Sievers. And I wanted to share with you a passage that I labeled the power of speech. And I'm going to change a little bit of the pronouns. So we humans must place ourselves consciously into the whole universe in order to grasp ourselves as a being endowed with speech. We must learn to sense the directions, the heights, the depths, and the circumference. Our word carries us far further out than any bodily movement through which we learn to sense space. In our word, we live as air beings and break through the solid boundaries of our body. How does modern man speak? Our brain functions like a physical apparatus. It only reflects. Our bony structure transfixes the sound, holds it tightly, and binds it. It is actually the skeleton that speaks. Sentiment has to be pressed into it so that an illusory life may be introduced into this bony mechanical speech. It is drawn out of the overheated, over-intense personality, at best out of sentimentality. This, however, always gives the impression of being untrue. On the other hand, it may also be drawn out of nervous tension, which leads to ever greater exaggeration, or for the sake of desired effect, to hysteria. Morbid decadence will soon be out of date. It is being seized upon by mechanization and brushed aside, signifying the triumph of technology over art. It leaps from the screens and from loudspeakers into the limbs and into the voices of human beings. Here it becomes lignified and lignifies man. We no longer find the way out of ourselves once we have blocked this living source, which represents our connection with the world around us. The air is both outside and inside us. The air nurtures our organism. Through transformation, it becomes warmth in us and gives us our inner life. It gives us our inner life. Breath makes us a living soul and leads us to consciousness of our connections with the cosmos. But as long as a voice is only sound, unarticulated or melodious, as with beast or bird, it cannot awaken consciousness. It can do so only when the power of speech is poured into it. The power of speech is the starry script of the cosmos come to life. It finds expression in us. This starry script on Moon Day also drew me to the story of Parzival, and how Parzival and so I was thinking about this, as I said, this hero's deed of actually asking this question. And I was looking at Christ and the spiritual world and the search for the Holy Grail. And Rudolf Steiner, I'm going to just kind of jump in because I'd like to do this so that we can have a little breakout time. Rudolf Steiner is talking about a search that he was doing, a research into the Akashic record. And he was asking about where this Holy Grail was that Parzival was returning to. And he says, then comes the conversation between Parzival and the hermit. And when Rudolf Steiner sought to accompany Parzival in spirit during his return to the Grail, it was often as though there shone forth in the soul how he traveled by day and by night, how he devoted himself to nature by day and to the stars by night, as if the stellar script had spoken to his unconscious self, and as if this was a prophecy of that which the holy company of knights who came from the Grail to meet him had said, "Thy name shines forth in the radiance from the Grail." But Parzival quite clearly did not know what to make of the message of the stars, for it remained in his unconscious being, and therefore one cannot so very well interpret it, however much one may try to immerse oneself in it through spiritual research. Then Rudolf Steiner tried once more to get back to Kjot. Now, earlier in this lecture, Rudolf Steiner talks about Kjot, and about this research that he's doing, and that many times when you're doing spiritual research, you have to do eso and exoteric research. So as he was studying, what many scholars were saying is that Kjot, Wolfram von Eschenbach had studied or had taken as sources the Christian de Troyes, and also he had referenced this person or this being Kjot, and he introduces so he went back to this, he tried once more to get back to this being. Who was this person, Rudolf Steiner? And behold, a particular thing said about him by Wolfram von Eschenbach made a deep impression on Rudolf Steiner. And I'm going to go back into his voice. I felt I had to relate it to the Gangada Greda. The connection seemed inevitable. Now, the Gangada Greda, go back here, has to do with, let's see here. He says earlier in the lecture also that he was really intensely looking at this Norwegian folk spirit. And in this Norwegian folk spirit, Parzival says, he says about Parzival, learn to understand the saying that through my powers there flowed into the northern Parzival saga Gangada Greda, circulating cordial, or something to that effect. And he had no idea what to make of that. The connection, though, he says, seemed inevitable. He had to relate it also to the image of the woman holding her dead bridegroom on her lap. And then, when I was not in the least looking for it, I came upon a saying by this being, this person, Kjot. Ja, es heißt ein Dine der Grail. He said a thing was called the Grail. Now, exoteric research itself tells us how Kjot came to these words. He acquired a book by Flegantes in Spain, Flegantes, an astrological book No doubt one may say, no doubt about it, one may say, Kjot is the man who, stimulated by Phlegetanis, whom he called Phlegetanis, and in whom lives a certain knowledge of the stellar script, Kjot is the man who, stimulated by this revised astrology, sees the thing called the Grail. Then Rudolf Steiner talks about how he knew Kjot is not to be given up, that he knew he discloses an important clue if one is searching in the sense of spiritual science. He at least has seen the Grail. Where then is this Grail, which today must be found in such a way that the name of Parzival stands upon it? Where can it be found? Now, in the courses of my research, it has been shown to me that the name, that is the first thing, must be sought for in the stellar script. And then, on a day which I must regard as specially significant for me, I was shown where the gold gleaming vessel in its reality is to be found, so that through its symbolical expression in the stellar script, we are led to the secret of the Grail. And then I saw it in the stellar script, something that anyone can see, only he will not immediately discern the secret. For one day, while I was following with inner sight the gold gleaming sickle of the moon, as it appeared in the heavens, with the dark moon like a great disk dimly visible within it, so that with physical sight one saw the gold gleaming moon, Gangada Greda, the journeying viaticum, and within it the large host, the dark disk. This is not to be seen if one merely glances superficially at the moon, but it is evident if one looks closely, and there, in wonderful letters of the occult script, was the name Parzival. That, to begin with, was the stellar script. For in fact, if this reading of the stellar script is seen in the right light, it yields for our hearts and minds something, though perhaps not all, of the Parzival secret, the secret of the Holy Grail. Okay, so my thought for us today was to go out into a breakout room. Do we have time? We have 5 more minutes. Okay, so we'll get into groups of either 3 or 4 and think about maybe share a brief recollection of when you said or when you were able to speak right word, or when someone was able to speak right word to you, or finally, even when you recognized that you didn't speak right word here on Moon Day. So let's go out into breakout rooms.
No. We're everyone's wrapping up. They'll be back within 35 seconds.
Go back to my room. Elizabeth. Hello, Elizabeth. I'm sorry, I punched the wrong button.
They'll be here in just a moment.
Oh, I'm talking to Elizabeth. Can you hear me, Elizabeth? You're muted. Let's connect.
No, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Let me put my email in.
The chat? Okay, good. That would be great.
Connect. Where are you from?
Wisconsin.
Oh, I'm in Yelm, Washington.
Yeah, I see that. Okay.
We're Northerners.
Yes, I love the North.
All the best. Well,
welcome back, everyone. I'm not sure exactly how much time we have, but I would love if someone wanted to share a special memory, or we had one person who, where did it go? Nicolette. She shared a beautiful childhood memory that came up when I was talking about the power of speech. So if we'd like a few people to do that, I don't want to put Nicolette on the spot, but if you'd like to, you're welcome to. Otherwise, Let's see. So Sophia has her hand up. So maybe Nicolette after Sophia.
Okay. Hello, Christine. Nice to see you after all these years. Yeah, no, I was saying the biggest one of my life, really, a huge deal for me in finding the right words. My sister died 5 or 6 years ago, and her daughter was only 2 at the time. And so, yeah, it was horrendous. So it was the biggest, you know, when you think, how do you tell a 2-year-old her mother's died? And I was very fortunate to have some advice from a anthroposophical counselor and former Waldorf teacher. Anyway, so she gave me very good advice, and she said that what I should do is write a story about how her parents met and how they longed to have a child, and how she was born, and the lovely experiences of her life up to that time, and how then it was, you know, how she became ill and died. And so I wrote this story and memorized it, and I told it to my niece, and then immediately she said, tell it again. I told it again. She said, tell it again, and then tell it again. Anyway, she asked me to tell it 11 times, one after another, in one afternoon, and then the next day tell the story again, and the next day tell the story again. And so so she just was always wanting to hear this story. And it was probably a couple of months after my sister died that, I don't know, she just said, you know, I think my mum died, you know, but she just had that realization herself, without ever having anybody having to say those very harsh words, you know, your mother died. No one, of course, nobody wanted to tell her that. So that was my big deal. That was my biggest one of my life, when I knew that I had to say the right thing and not say the wrong thing. And I'm so grateful that I had really good advice about how to do that. But it was really, really powerful.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing. Yeah.
I had a question about the hermit.
But I think Nicolette was next, and then you can go after her. Okay, Elia?
Oh, all right.
Thank you.
Hi. After that story, I think maybe we all have some stories about death. And my memory was just being a child. That was so touching. Thank you. Saying something on the telephone after it was Christmas morning, and there was all sorts of gifts, and my friend called, and I had enjoyed the Christmas very much, and I heard myself saying to her, when she asked how was it, I said, oh, it wasn't very good, we didn't get very much, or something like that. And right away was aware of this freeze frame moment where my parents heard me. And it was a huge shock. It was just this shock between what I said to one person and how it would have been received, and how hurtful it would have been to my parents. And yeah, it's just, and I haven't thought of that forever until I was listening to our host here. And so that was special. And I was just thinking about death, and also being at my father's and mother's, but my father's bedside, and he was unconscious and far away, but something made me sing to him Amazing Grace. And after every bar, he just breathed this receiving gesture, like this, you know, and just he drank it in. So it was the word and the song, and and it was heard, and it just came from afar as some sort of threshold substance that I was able to give. But thank you.
Thank you, Nicolette. Elia? Did you have something to share?
Yeah, I had a question about the, you mentioned the hermit. Is that Hermit Trevisan?
Yes, yeah. He talks about in his, I really tried to essentialize the lecture and the idea that brought us to this Grail cup and the moon, because it's Moon Day. But yes, it was the Trevor sent.
Carolyn, I see that you have your hand raised, and I'm going to ask everyone to just, please, if you'd like to stay, that would be wonderful. But we are at time, so I just want to just be aware that time is our ally, and we have plenty of time. But for those who need to leave, I say thank you, and I would like to end this portion of the morning with the thought seed. So I'll bring that in, and then Carolyn, if you like to stay, if that's okay, then we would love to hear your question. And anyone else who would like to stay. But for now, I'd just like you to visualize your highest self. Just picture yourself speaking the right word, speaking the Christ word, knowing that you're doing the right thing, you're in the right place at the right time. And then just really picture your angel working with you. And picture everybody on this call and everybody that you know. How about every human being on earth living right now in their highest self, letting their angels speak to them and work with them in their astral body to create change and growth and purification. And then let's just picture, we can go up from there, can't we? Right? We could think about the spirit of place where we live. We could think about all the elemental beings that are in our yard or in our area. We could think about the house elves, and really just send our love and our light, our highest self, our highest vibration to all of them, right? We could go up from there, right? We could think about the spirit of America. We could think about Raphael, the archangel of spring at this time. We could think about the time spirit, Michael. We could go all the way through all the hierarchies up to the Godhead and feel that alignment and see all of us, every human being just shining with their highest and best self. And when we do that, we can see that the earth itself is starting to glow, right? And not just the earth, it's extending out to the moon and to all the wandering stars and even out into the zodiac, into the constellations, right? And then breathe it all back in, right? And let's have this conscious awareness of this expansion, contraction, this giving and taking in of this light and this love. When I think light, my soul shines. When my soul shines, the earth is a star. When the earth is a star, then I am a true human being. And then we could just picture it all happening. It's all happening. It's happened already. Have faith to know that it's all happened already. I am a true human being, for the earth is a star. The earth is a star when my soul shines. My soul shines when I think light. So thank you. Yeah, it could be just a simple little thing, just an awareness, just an intention that we can bring to the world, a thought seed for our spiritual and evolutionary development. And so thank you, Christine. Thank you so much for bringing us the right word today and this beautiful picture of the Parsifal moon, his name written in the starry script. May we find all of our names written in the starry script, right? We just have to be aware and be connected that way. And tomorrow, which is Rudolf Steiner's Deathday, we'll have Deborah Rogers speaking about right deed. So thank you, friends. And again, whoever would like to stay, who was it now that had their hand up?
It's Carolyn.
Hi, Carolyn. Where is
Hi.
she? Did she leave? Oh, no.
Maybe she left.
If there's anyone else who'd like to share a little about their right word or their experience of receiving the right word from someone else. It's all about this community and this sharing of, and this connection with one another, that this, all right, wonderful. We have Carolyn and then Elizabeth, if you would like to share.
Lisa, oh, good. We can hear you now, Carolyn.
Okay, thank you so much. Boy, I so appreciate it. Everything everybody has been saying. The thing that popped in my mind when we talked about the right word, my mom was passing, and right close to the end, she said to me, and she had really couldn't talk anymore, with always garbled words, but she managed to get out, "Let it be." And I went, wow, let it be. Those are powerful words. And I mentioned it to my best friend that evening, and she said, "That's like the Beatles song, Let It Be." And so we went to stay for the funeral. We were staying in a hotel and preparing. And I said, oh, maybe we can find the music to Let It Be. So we're looking for it on the computer. We see it written, but we never could get it to play or to list the words. And we were frustrated. So next day we get in the car, and the car radio had been off. And I don't even know why it went on. We turned the key on to start the car, and this music to Let It Be blurted out on the radio. So that's become my 2 words, 3 words that get me through life now. When anything comes up, I think, let it be, and just be open. It's like, keep your heart open and let it be. So that's my little story.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. That's beautiful. Thank you. Yes. Let it be. Elizabeth, would you like to share as well?
Yes, hi. Just a really quick little share. What came to mind in respect to this, what you've asked us to think about. I couldn't sort of pin a moment. I can understand how a person can really remember something. Oh God, that was really the right thing to say, and what a great moment that was. I can understand that, but what came to my thought was, sometimes you can be speaking, and it can be also a really small thing, and as you're speaking, it may not even be that important, but as you're speaking, you're thinking, oh, these are the right words. You just have a moment where you think, thank God, these are the right words. And it's a blessing. You can't do anything about it. You can only just say thank you, and the moment might pass, but it's sort of grace. It's just sort of a moment that you can't control is what I was trying to say.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
I like to share just a thought about finding the right words. And sometimes we spend a long time sort of literally trying to think through the right words when we have a pre-planned engagement that may be challenging in some way. And one helpful thing that I have found is to create an imagination or access an imagination of the desired outcome in a gestural form. And so I'll give you an example. Was on a board that was going to have very confrontational meetings at a conference, people who wanted to disrupt the conference. And no one on the board knew what to say to meet their needs without the conference being disrupted. So we created a gesture of that included a handshake and a smile traveling through the room. And when we had the confrontation, everyone on the board who knew this gesture would imagine from their heart, allow this gesture to keep forming, and through listening, trust that the right words would then be revealed. And it was very, very successful. It actually, the meeting did end with smiles all around and handshakes, and the conference not being disrupted, and the people who were challenging feeling well met. So the words did not come through the lower thinking forces, but came because we allowed and trusted that the right word would stream through, given the clarity of intention.
Thank you, Lisa. Wow. Yes, I think anytime we speak about the word, or we speak about conversation, or any kind of interchange between people, this element of listening is so important. It's almost even more important than what you say, right? Being able to hear. Thank you. That was really a beautiful synopsis, and maybe even a good closing note to end on. Unless we have anyone else who would like to.
I do. I have a question.
I see Rivers also.
Okay, so Rose has a question, and then Nicholas, did you also have a question maybe after Rose? Okay.
So I put it in the chat because I'm on my phone. I'm traveling, and I wanted to make sure I put it out there. And it just seems I wonder a lot about we used to be able to pick up the phone and talk to people, right? And there's like inflection, and you can, I used to have a job where I worked remotely, and you talk to people all the time, and sometimes you never ever met them, but you have a relationship through the phone, through speech. And I feel like in this day, like in age, like since in the last 10, 15 years, everybody texts all the time, and no one ever really picks up the phone anymore. And I feel like there's a real disconnection when you guys, in terms of speech. So my question really is about, like, when we're using our speech, I had heard that we can really connect with the different beings when we connect with somebody with speech versus just through writing, because everybody just emails and texts now. And especially during this time of disconnection, where we're apart from one another, and it just makes it, for me, a lot that much more disconnecting to have a silent world almost.
Yeah, I think Marie Steiner spoke a little to that in the first passage that I read from the book Creative Speech, when she's saying that our brains are functioning like physical apparatus, that we're only reflecting. We're not really, we're not living into and experiencing that living, those living beings that we create. In a sense, we're creative through our speech. We are co-creators of the world, of the universe, through our speaking and our connecting. And so, the text world, one of the exercises that I often give to my students is to go off of technology for a while and only use voice. And if it has to be calling, if someone texts you, if they're asking a question, call them and talk to them. And this experience is profound for students. It's profound for young people. They're like, wow. And I asked them how they feel about it, and what was their experience of it. And they said, well, it was a little inconvenient, but somehow, I mean, most of them say something to the effect, some sort of story about how they learned something about that person that really touched them in some way. And so, yeah, it's this mechanization, this can speed up our, I don't want to say, speed up or enhance this deadening of speech and of this living kind of connection of speech that we so, in a sense, desperately need to have with other people. This communication, yeah. Thank you for that question. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's a good place to talk about it.
Yeah. Nicholas?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, good.
Oh, maybe I'm not. So I just to reflect, I think presence is important. I think resonance is important, because I can say, good morning, how are you? That can be really mundane. But when I am present and I'm looking at the person in the eye, I can say, good morning, how are you? And it can make their day.
Mm.
So I think we want to relax when we think we know what speech is and what it's not. It's a good time to reflect. So all the best, my dear. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. This the way we speak and when we speak it's reflected in kind of, I believe, something that's inherent in humanity, is that it's so, sometimes it's just easier to just like have a box that we can say, okay, well, this is me speaking, or right, or this is a group that I'm affiliated with, and let me just let them think for us. Maybe even within our own speech organization, we do the same kind of thing. We forget that we've forgotten over the years, over the many, many years, that there is so much that we can do when we actually gift our speech to someone, when we are present in what we're speaking and our exchanges. So thank you all so much for coming.
Well, again, my dear, the presence is important.
Yes.
Somebody that texts, I'm not going to try to get them to call me. I will text them. I can speak that way. If I'm in a meeting and somebody has a certain MO, I will enter into that MO, enter into that way of being, and just be sincere and authentic as I can be. So I think that's what I'm saying about flexibility. We don't have to structure it. There's something else going on. When you said communication or communion, I think that's the key.
Definitely. I agree with you completely. It's not that technology is a bad thing. That's not where I was going, is that, we really can be present even in our texts or even in our emails. It's a constant vigil. Kaylee, did you have something you wanted to?
Yeah, I would like to say the difference is in my voice, I'm kind, I'm loving, but when it comes out on the text, I feel like it's stern, academic, kind of almost, structured. So there's a difference between my texting and my voice and the feeling that goes behind each one. And I can't, it must be because of my own training. I went to college and I want text to sound intelligent. And in my voice, it's loving. I want to be caring. So
I'm really glad you said that, because I'm kind of wondering about the heart connection from the heart to the larynx and kind of that air, that cardiopulmonary part of it, versus when we do, when we're, I'm on the phone, so this is going to seem really, maybe this is going to help make my point, but when we're texting and we're like pointing and we're just going like this gesture, right? Do you think that that gesture might change how we feel inside and how we're communicating to someone by typing or by pointing? Maybe that's much less connecting.
It could, but again, as Nicholas was saying, it depends on your being present. It depends on you being present. And if you can be present in what you're doing, maybe that pointing changes to something softer, and it's instead of it's oh and this, and it's dancing on the screen. You know, it could be.
That is something that would take a lot of consciousness.
It does.
As a former kindergarten teacher, gesture is very important, and
exactly.
It's a functional gesture when we're typing on the phone. And
it seems to be the hemispheres of the brain, the right and left hemisphere. With speech, I include both. But I will keep this awareness in mind as I continue this week, especially. Thank you.
You know, Rose, it's interesting what you said, the connection between the heart and the larynx, because working with the 6 basic exercises develops the etheric heart, but working with the weekday exercises helps to bring in the larynx as well. So there's this connection that happens between the two when you put those 2 exercises together. So that was actually the inspiration that besides the fact that it's, you know, Holy Week and all of that I wanted to bring that, because some of us on the call here are working with the 6 basic exercises. And to me, this is just another way of expanding that and bringing this other connection. So thanks for mentioning that.
yeah, thank you. That's just really helpful. I wonder about a lot of things, and it's great to have discussions about it with folks that have been studying a lot longer than me.
It looks like, yes, it looks like Alaya has a contribution, and then maybe Nicholas again, but we have many of us would like to get to our 9, well, for me on this coast, it's 9 a.m. 6 basic exercises course, but we have, let's say, 4 more minutes to go. So Vivian and then Nicholas. Oh, sorry, not Vivian, it's Alaya, sorry.
Yeah, hi, Christine. I was wondering if you might be available. I have a project that I would like to know if you'd be interested in, which would be, I want to have somebody with your kind of speech training to know if you could record for me inside of for a project, the fairy tale of the Rockborn Spring from the mystery dramas.
Let's talk. I think Vivian has my my contact information.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. And thank you for your stories about Parsifal. It's something I've studied for about 40 years. I love that whole story.
Oh, wonderful.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure.
Are you familiar with the story of the hermit, where at one point when he's under his bridge, a young knight comes riding along and they start to have a dialogue together, and he asks him, well, where did he learn what he was sharing with him? And the hermit said, well, he learned it from the stellar script. And I think it has to do with dialectica and rhetorica and the 7 liberal arts. And I think later it comes to be revealed that the young knight was Shionatalander.
Yes, yes, I'm remembering. It's been a little while since I've actually studied the whole of it, but yes, yes.
And that's a whole beautiful study that we could all do together sometime. Maybe we'll take that up for next Easter or something. That
Yeah.
whole story is such a blessing to live into.
And Brian Gray, I thank goodness for Brian Gray, because when I was doing my Waldorf teacher training, I learned about Parzival, and that story has stayed with me ever since, and it's been a long time. So thank you, Brian Gray.
You know what, let's close for today. Nicholas, I hope you'll come back tomorrow and we can continue our conversation, but I think it's been a half an hour now extra, and we do have to get on to our next thing. So thank you, friends. Thank you so much. Blessings of this holy day.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Hazel.
Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks, Lisa, for all your help.
Goodbye, Hazel. Goodbye, Christine. Thank you so much.
Peace.